Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. So I think it's a good time to revisit NUSI. This is a very popular risk-managed income ETF based off of the NASDAQ 100. And as the name suggests, the point of this investment is to give you consistent monthly income and give you downside protection. So in terms of the monthly income, it definitely has been achieving that with a dividend yield over 8% right now. However, the price performance, especially recently, hasn't been that great. In fact, year to date, NUSI is down 15.41%, and the QQQ during that same time is only down 13%. So it seems like, at least on the surface, this fund is failing at one of its two primary goals. So let's use this opportunity to revisit NUSI and try to find out exactly what's going on. And aside from my own analysis, at the end of the video, I also want to take a look at this article about the same topic. And as always, you guys know I appreciate a like on the video, subscribing to the channel. I even have a Patreon link down below if you guys want to support the channel directly. Okay, so of course we have to begin with the basics of what this investment is for you uninitiated. So the thing that's special about NUSI is that it uses a protective collar strategy. And all that means is that this fund both sells call options and buys put options. And in terms of their moneyness, they're both around 10% out of the money, but keep in mind this is actively managed and they do have flexibility on this. And of course, this whole strategy is based off of the NASDAQ 100 index. So to put it visually, this is kind of what it looks like. The put option is what gives you direct downside protection, and the call option is what the fund sells to generate income. As mentioned, at the time of purchase, they're both roughly 10% out of the money. And in practice, that means that the price can fluctuate within this band before something happens. So if the price dips below that of the put option, it comes into play and prevents any further losses. And on the flip side, if the price goes up, the call option acts as a ceiling, preventing further gains. So that's the basic fundamentals of how this fund operates. But of course, the question remains, why is the performance since the beginning of this year so terrible? If we take a look at NUSI in blue alongside QQQ in yellow, of course they move in the same general direction, but NUSI does have less volatility in both directions, and that's a key point. In fact, I think the best way to explain this is to give you guys two different situations. The first one is going to be the ideal scenario for NUSI. So this is the situation where NUSI is going to perform its best and what's really designed to do. Because of the hard put that stops significant losses, NUSI performs best during a swift market crash, much like what we saw in 2020. But so far in 2022, the market sell-off we're experiencing is a lot more slow and drawn out over multiple months. In fact, if we go back to the year-to-date view on the QQQ, we can see that from month to month, we never had more than 10% sell-off. The market has definitely been very choppy, but there's not a straight vertical drop. And just due to the nature of put options, that's what NUSI is designed to protect against. So that's one side of the equation. The other is the call option and how price appreciation affects this investment. So in the same way that the put option prevents significant losses, the call option is going to prevent significant gains. And that's why the best situation for NUSI is slow and steady price appreciation over longer periods of time. That's what's going to allow you to capture most of that rally. So to recap, NUSI performs best during a sharp market decline, followed by a slow recovery. Now, if we go to the other situation, where NUSI doesn't perform super well, it's basically the exact opposite, and this is similar to what we find ourselves in now. So this is a slow sell-off where the market declines, but not enough to activate the put option, and then followed by a sharp market rally to the upside. Because in this situation, the call option is going to limit your gains, and the put option was wasted because it never helped you. So taking a look at these two situations side by side, hopefully this gives you a better understanding of how this fund works. And if we apply this to the current situation, the market sell-off has been rather slow and drawn out, with a sprinkle of sharp moves to the upside. If we zoom into the past year to date on the QQQ, we can see that the market did just rebound about 16%. But of course, NUSI really isn't designed for sharp moves to the upside, and that's why this fund only went up about 5 to 6%. And that's why cumulative year to date, NUSI is performing worse than the QQQ. Now, there is one more major dislike that I have personally when it comes to the mechanics of NUSI, and it's all about the put option. So if you guys follow the channel, you know that I'm actually a pretty big fan of using call options to help generate a high level of income. Some of my favorite funds that do this are Divo and XYLG. And aside from the high level of income this strategy can generate, I love how covered calls act as a hedge against high levels of market volatility, because as volatility in the market goes up, the premiums collected by selling covered calls also increases. And we can see that with the dividend history of XYLG. So back in 2021, when the market was going up, the dividend payments were pretty low and consistent. But once we got into 2022 with all the added volatility, we can see how the option premiums and the income you collected rapidly increased. But if we come back to NUSI and take a look at the dividend history, you're going to notice that the most recent payments are actually a little bit lower. In fact, the most recent dividend payments are some of the lowest in the past 2 years. And that, of course, is because with this option strategy, you have to take some of the premium you collect to buy the put option. And much like with call options, when the volatility in the market increases, the price you pay for the put option also increases. And that's why this most recent market sell-off has been so detrimental for NUSI, because not only have the put options not come into play because of the long drawn out nature of the sell-off, but because of the high levels of volatility, that put option that you're not even using is now more expensive. And that's why the income has also dropped during this time, again lowering the total return of the investment. And if you want more data on this topic, I'll leave this article linked down below, and this explains in depth why NUSI is underperforming, and he basically comes to the same conclusion. He points out that during sharp market declines like back in 2020, the ETF performed pretty well. But he points out that the current market situation is basically the exact opposite of this, and this is why NUSI isn't performing super well. And again, I'll leave this whole article linked down below if you want to read the whole thing. So let us know in the comments down below, what's your current stance on NUSI? Do you currently own any of it? Are you selling? Let us know in the comments down below. If you guys are still watching and enjoyed, I appreciate a like on the video, subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next one.